Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent
A certain former president is speaking out. It's
California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop
been deeply involved behind the scenes, no surprise. According to the New York Times, California Governor Gavin Newsom sought Pelosi's private counsel and support over the summer before plowing ahead with Prop 50. Pelosi was also a key sounding board for Eric Holder, the former attorney general, as he decided to abandon his commitment to nonpartisan map-making. In this case, she was also seen as a linchpin to help fund this campaign. Even tonight, right before this show, and she's been here with me for the last several minutes, she hosted a grassroots call on Prop 50, seemingly working around the clock on this very important effort. Back with me now, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. You have been very busy. I just outlined some of the ways you've been involved. Clearly, this is personal to you. For people who are just paying attention, we've talked about it a bit on this show, but why is this so important?
Well, it's important because this is the path to winning the House for the Democrats. In 2006, when we won that. Was the first time the Democrats had won since 1992. But we got ready the year before. We were ready 1 year in advance to win the following year. Same thing in 18. In 2017, we were ready to win in 18. We won 40 seats, 31 of them in Trump districts. This time, we've been preparing. And then the Republicans did what they did in Texas. I'm not a big fan of redistricting mid-decade or even beyond the commission, but we have made a pledge that the next redistricting will be with the commission with this, and we fully intend to win. I want to win big. And so I'm so excited about the president's ad that came out this week. It's really a cause for great excitement because nobody has a bigger positive image in California than Barack Obama.
Your eyes light up when you talk about winning big. I think that excites a lot of people watching. Just to put a fine point on it here, I mean, Speaker, Democratic leader Jeffries.
Yes.
Would he be able to become Speaker if this does not pass?
He will be Speaker.
Well, but if this doesn't pass, does it have to pass in order for him to become Speaker?
Well, he will be Speaker. We will win the election. This is a step in that direction. But we have many steps in that direction. This isn't arrogant. This is confident. Hakeem Jeffries, and he's leading the way on this for us, what we're doing with health care and the rest in this debate on the shutting down, the Republicans have done in government. The Republicans shut down government. Trump took great pride in it when he did it, and you showed the film. I take pride in doing that. He was proud to do that. And every shutdown has been a Republican shutdown. So we fully intend to win. This is, I don't even entertain the idea that we would not win on November 4th. I want to win big.
There are 3 Democrat, there are as many as 9 Republican-led states that have either gerrymandered their maps. This is important for people to know. 9 Republican states are considering it in some capacity. 3 Democratic states have taken some sort of action. Obviously, other states could follow California's lead. Redistricting is not something that you have supported mid 10-year plan here, but you also don't like to fight with one arm behind your back. You wouldn't have won so many times. Do you wish other states, do you want other blue states to really think about this at this point, or think about a path forward, even if it's following the same model as California with letting people vote to do it?
Well, people have to do what their path is. It's really important to note, I thank you for your acknowledging what I have done, but this was a big plan. That is to say, in order for us to move forward, the California Democrats had to bless a plan that added 5 seats, which meant members had to give up some of their Democrats to do that. Zoe Lofgren, our chair of our caucus, and Pete Aguilar, who's the chair of the bigger caucus, they led the way on this. Zoe has just been remarkable. So our delegation had to vote for this. The state legislature, House and Senate, under the leadership of Speaker Rivas and pro tem leader of the Senate, McGuire, they then supported what we sent them. And then, of course, Gavin Newsom carried the ball down is carrying the ball down the field, and we're very proud of that. But everybody, since we're all into it, people have, you have to own the ground to win an election. So everybody has a vested interest in California in doing this. So we had a plan. I don't, if other states have a plan to do. But, we only need 3 seats to win, to make Hakeem the speaker. Understand that. So it's not a big thing. Last election, when we won 40 seats. As I said, 31 in Trump districts. When we won in 2006, we hadn't won since 1992, but we decided we had to win. And we made a decision to win. And when you make a decision to win, you make every decision in favor of winning. With House Democrats, state legislature, Governor Newsom, and now our former president of the United States with the country is depending on California. It's about winning the House, but it's also about our democracy and that. But what people vote on, we save our democracy at the kitchen table. So it comes right back down to the cost of living, the cost of health care, the cost of everything that we do, whether it's for job creation and jobs and community safety and Affordable Care Act, as well as Medicaid, Medicare, all of that, helping seniors with a long-term health care. You save democracy at the kitchen table.
Elect Adelita Grijalva, because it's been 22 days since she won that Arizona 7th district. Yesterday, a group of House Democrats went straight into Speaker Johnson's office chanting, "Swear her in." And now Arizona's Attorney General is threatening to take legal action. MSNBC's Kevin Fry is reporting from Capitol Hill on this. What is the latest? Because there was some commotion yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, we should also add that protest march, if you will, from a Democratic meeting to the Speaker of the House's office really didn't end in much, given that the Speaker was not actually there at the time. But you saw in some of those signs, they really hit on the Epstein situation, basically saying, what are you afraid of? As you kind of hinted at, she will be that critical 118th signator to the discharge petition, which would force a vote on this issue on the House floor. Now, Republicans insist that's not the issue at play here, but certainly you saw Grijalva lean into this when she spoke to the press just yesterday.
Now is the time for Speaker Johnson to perform his duty and swear me in without further delay. I don't need bells and whistles. I don't need pomps and circumstance. I just need to get to work for Southern Arizona. Let's be clear. Speaker Johnson knows that I will be the 218th signature on the discharge petition for the Epstein files. He is doing everything in his power to shield this administration from accountability. That is not leadership. That is obstruction.
And apologies on my part, that was from this morning. Now, as you mentioned, the Attorney General of Arizona is threatening to sue. They sent a letter to the Speaker just yesterday saying that the explanation as to why she hasn't been sworn in yet is, quote, ever-shifting, unsatisfactory, and sometimes absurd. Now, the Speaker argues that there is precedent for such a delay. One, he says the Congress needs to be in full session, not just a pro forma session. And he says that Democrats previously didn't swear in a Congresswoman from Louisiana for more than 24 days. And so thus this is not out of the norm. Democrats say earlier this year, the Republicans swore in 2 members within a day after they were elected in special elections. Next pro forma session where we'll see this kind of come to a head again is on Friday. Alex?
Okay, Kevin, thank you so much for that. Well, I have a terrific group to talk this over. Barbara Starr is a former board member of the Pentagon Press Association and CNN Pentagon correspondent for, 21 years. Lieutenant General Mark Hertling served as commander of U.S. Army Europe. He is with me as well as here in studio. We have Oliver Darcy, founding and lead author of the Status Daily Briefing. So welcome all. We'll go ladies first, Barbara. So even though all of these members of the Pentagon Press Corps no longer have press badges, I mean, I assume that means they're going to continue reporting. So how do they do that? What does that look like now? And how does it change starting today and going forward?
Well, reporters are going to report no matter where they are. That's just, the fact. And they will continue. They can do it by phone. They can meet in person. They can do email. They can work from home. They can meet at a local coffee bar. They can work off of Capitol Hill or, sit in their cars and work off their cell phones. This is not going to stop reporting, but I think you have to focus, as I know everyone is, on the real bottom line here. This is about the public's right to know, the American people's right to know how their tax money is being spent at the Pentagon. What is it now? Nearly $1 trillion. What is that money being spent on? What are the troops doing? How are the troops doing on any number of issues? These are all things that are the public's right to know. Nothing to do with classified information. And, the work will go on.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, though, Barbara, your response to Secretary Hegseth's claim. These are basically common sense measures. They're meant to protect classified and national security type of information. I mean, I guess I'm asking, logistically, were there times that you were just walking the halls of the Pentagon and you'd happen upon somebody and they said to you, hey, I've got something and it's classified and I'm going to tell you right here in the hallway? I mean, is that where you would get stuff?
No. I got to tell you, in all my years, nobody, classified information didn't leap out of the hallways into my hands. General Hertling, who of course served in the Pentagon, can explain in much greater detail than I can. But classified information, classified workspaces in the Pentagon are all behind locked doors, cameras, locks, heavily monitored. Reporters have no access to that information. And Mr. Hegseth knows this, or he should know it. He is concerned, obviously, about leaks of classified information, as is every defense secretary. But you go after the leakers, there's not a reason to go after the free press in this country. I don't know of any reputable news organization that goes out there and solicits classified information. The really disturbing fact about what he's doing, of course, is that he's also trying to restrict access to unclassified information. This is why reporters have to turn in their passes. They could potentially be prosecuted for having a conversation, for asking a question about unclassified information that hasn't been pre-approved by Mr. Hegseth. Reporters are not Pentagon stenographers.
That is just remarkable. They could possibly be prosecuted for asking a question. I'm curious, Oliver, what you think of the way this has gone down with the media, the unification here. Everybody from the Washington Times to the New York Times is in opposition to this. What does that say to you?
Well, it says that they don't want to be propagandists. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
Or stenographers, as Barbara says, right.
And that's what Pete Hegseth wants. He wants them to go into the Pentagon, take the government-approved messaging, and relay that to audiences. That is not journalism. That is really akin to what you see in places like North Korea, where you have government-approved anchors relay the government message to audiences. That's propaganda. And so these organizations, they cannot sign this. It would be contrary to everything they stand for. And I think we should point out that Pete Hegseth is someone who, as many members of this administration did, said he was a pro-free speech guy, right? He's the guy that wants people to be allowed to have free speech. And here he is, he's trying to chill free speech inside the Pentagon. That's really what it comes down to. And as a result, he is depriving the public of an understanding of what is happening inside one of the most powerful institutions.
Do you think it gives OAN, the one that has said, yeah, we'll stay? Do they have an advantage by staying?
I don't know if they have much of an advantage. I think actually the reporters who have actual sources inside the Pentagon are going to have the real advantage here, because they're still going to communicate with them and get the real story behind the scenes. OAN, to be clear, is a propaganda network. It's a Donald Trump propaganda network. And so this is not surprising that they have gone along with this. I think it is surprising to some extent that outlets like Newsmax have also said, we're not going to follow.
And Fox.
And Fox
News.
News.
Again, Hegseth's own former home, professional home,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. And so that's a real slap in the face to him, I think, that his own former employer is saying, you've gone way overboard here. But Pete Hegseth, again, Fox News is all about, like, we don't like safe spaces. We're not snowflakes, right? Pete Hegseth is behaving like a snowflake who needs a safe space to protect him from the act of reporting, which is insane.
So, General, give me the view from the military side. The president has defended this policy by saying the press can be, quote, very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Again, that's the president saying it. How about you? What do you say to that?
Well, first, if I can, Alex, I'd like to give a shout out to both Barbara and Oliver, because they're both the best at their business. And I worked with Barbara not only in the Pentagon for the one tour I was there, but also in Iraq when she visited often as one of those reporters. What I tell you is I do have a lot of experience with journalists while in uniform. Every military senior ranking person does. I'd reinforce what Barbara said, that the entire Pentagon is not a classified space, as Secretary Hegseth said. If it were, people wouldn't be conducting tours through the Pentagon with a lot of civilians on a daily basis. But what I'd also suggest was what we're talking about are two different institutions. One, the military, exists to defend the republic. The other one, the media, exists to inform it. And together, they protect the same ideal, which is self-government based on public trust. If you lose that trust, if the people aren't getting informed, if the military isn't doing the things that it's supposed to do, as they get paid so much to do in terms of a budget from Congress, then you're going to lose that public trust. And that's what concerns me the most. You know, again, like I said, I had a lot of experience dealing with journalists. From a military perspective, I don't speak from all senior officers, but I will tell you, I welcomed the press. because it gave us a chance to tell our story of what soldiers were doing, of what operations were going on, of the kind of issues that we had, of the misread of the American public sometime that journalists were informing. And only those who were afraid of the military, afraid of the media, who haven't developed that trust that I was just talking about, they're the ones that tend to put draconian rules on the press, and it doesn't help the republic. That's the thing that I'm most concerned about. And I think not only, I'll make a statement, I think you've seen all of the members of the Pentagon press corps run counter to this policy, but you're also seeing a lot of retired military who can speak up against it, because we know how important the free press and freedom of speech is in a free society.
And Barbara, it would be one thing if the secretary, again, former employer Fox News, was giving regular briefings. He is doing the opposite. And according to The Hill, Hegseth has not briefed Pentagon reporters in nearly 4 months, and the press secretary, Kingsley Wilson, has not conducted a briefing in 2 months. Any idea why?
I think it's begging the question that's being, I would tell you, is being whispered about more and more, which is basically, what is Pete Hegseth afraid of? He clearly is deeply concerned about leaks. That is valid for any defense secretary. We'll make a side comment here that his own issue with so-called Signalgate, putting potentially classified information on Signal, still has to be resolved. It's fine if he's concerned about leaks. He, however, also seems to be extremely focused on trying to impress President Trump with just how tough he is. And President Trump is responding to that. He may want to come across as tough, but what he's coming across as, I think many people believe, is someone who is very fearful. He's out there yelling, waving his hands around, insulting the press corps by name, insulting them as a professional entity. This is not something that many people, I think, believe shows strength. It's kind of a sense of fearfulness on his part, so he gets louder and louder in his criticism. And so far, the only substantive interviews he's done have been with his former employer, Fox News. Now we'll see what happens with all of that.
So, Oliver, the president has indicated that these new restrictions may not be relegated only to the Pentagon. Here's what he said on Tuesday about that.
We have an option here, as you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe.
Okay, it is one thing, and it's a very serious thing, to not have access to the Pentagon. The president there implying maybe it could get cut off within the White House. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I would not rule anything out, because this president has assaulted the press in a number of ways, whether it's filing lawsuits against them, smearing them by organization, and going after them in a number of ways. So you can't rule anything out. And he has had this fantasy, I think, of kicking the press off of White House grounds. Former press secretary Stephanie Grisham from his first term had said that that was something that was floated and he wanted. But I have a hard time thinking that this television-obsessed president is going to boot the cameras from the White House. He loves sitting there, like he did right on that screen, talking to the press, knowing his remarks are being carried live by other networks. And so, whether he actually follows through and exiles the press from White House grounds, it's certainly possible, but, I have a hard time seeing it.